Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to read you this book called Ida Always. It's a beautiful story about friendship and love. And I thought before reading the story, I'd read to you the front cover of the book or the inside of the jacket. Sometimes there's a little summary of what the story is about. And I think in this case, it's helpful to hear that before we read the story. So the story is about Ida and Gus. That's them on the cover. Gus lives in a big park in the middle of an even bigger city, and he spends his days with Ida. Ida is right there, always. Then one sad day, Gus learns that Ida is very sick, and she is not going to get better. The friends help each other face the difficult news with whispers and sniffles and cuddles and even laughs. And slowly, Gus realizes that even after Ida is gone, she will still be with him through the sounds of their city and the memories that live on in their favorite spots. So let's learn more about Ida and Gus and their really wonderful friendship. Ida always. I have a feeling the city they're talking about is New York City by the look of all those big buildings. Let's see if I'm right. Gus lived in a big park in the middle of an even bigger city. Buildings grew around him and shifted the shape of the sky. Zookeepers poked in and out, and visitors came and went. But every morning, when keys clicked and shoes clacked, Gus crawled out of his cave and spent his day with Ida. Ida was right there, always. When Gus tossed the ball, Ida was there to catch it. And when Gus splashed water, Ida was there to splash him right back. They chased and raced until the school bells rang. Then the two friends flopped onto their favorite rock while the city pulsed around them. I wish we could see it, Gus sighed. You don't have to see it to feel it, said Ida. Just listen. They heard buses groan and trucks rumble, police whistle, taxis honk, pigeons coo. People say, hey, wait, yo, hello. And children laugh. That's the city's heartbeat, said Ida, and it's right here with us, always. Seems like Ida uses her other senses, doesn't it, to be able to experience the city around her. She didn't have to see it. She could hear it and close her eyes and imagine, knowing the city's there. When the sky grew dark, Gus and Ida waved goodnight and crawled off into their caves. With the subways humming underground, they added their snores to the sounds of their city. Every day was always the same. Until one morning, when keys clicked and shoes clacked, Gus crawled out. But Ida wasn't there. Gus lumbered to Ida's cave. He heard her breathing and coughing and snoring, sleeping. He sat in their sunniest spot and waited. The coffee carts ground their beans and the squirrels squabbled over crumbs. Visitors shuffled in and keepers bustled about. Ida never slept so late. Snow monkeys and taxicabs screeched. Ice cream trucks jingled. Still, Ida didn't come. Keeper Sonia came instead. Sonia told Gus that Ida was very sick. Usually there's a way to make a sick bear better, but this time it was different. Ida wouldn't hurt, but she would get tired and too weak to swim and play. And then one day, her body stopped working and Ida would die. Sonia's voice was very soft. Gus looks quite sad to hear this news, doesn't he? I think it was really thoughtful of Sonia to try and explain to Gus what was happening to Ida. It still isn't so easy to hear, though. The words felt rough to Gus. His insides churned and his chin shook. The sky rumbled and Gus rushed to his friend. "Don't go," he growled. "Don't go. Don't go. Don't." Ida growled right back. Together, they stomped and snarled. Their growls turned into howls so loud that they filled up the zoo, rising higher than the skyscrapers, scaring the pigeons and surging towards the stars. Sounds like the news was hard for Ida as well. And then they stopped. The two friends folded into one shadow and slumped quietly on the rocks. Two bare noses sniffled. Two bare breaths panted. Two bare hearts echoed each other's beat. A plane roared overhead. Gus and Ida wondered where it was going. They wondered where Ida was going. They wondered and guessed and imagined. And as they whispered nose to nose, "Wherever I go," said Ida, "I bet I'll always smell your fishy breath." That made Gus smile. He wasn't sure if he should, but Ida was giggling too. They let their laughs bounce back and forth between them. From then on, Ida spent most of her days in her cave. She slept a lot, but she didn't hurt, and the keepers took good care of her. And Gus helped. He gathered her favorite toys and fishy treats. He brought her visitors' notes. There were growling days, and there were laughing days, and days that mixed them up. Looks like when they were having mixed up days, just hugging one another made them feel better. Sometimes Ida needed a moment alone. And sometimes Gus did too. But at the end of each day, Gus always told Ida, "I'll miss you." And Ida always told Gus, "I'll miss you too." They would cuddle until the sky grew dark and the lamps of the city clicked on. They would wave good night 1,000 times and then wave a few times more. Then one sunny day, while Gus smoothed her fur, Ida curled into quiet. Her eyes fluttered shut and they didn't open anymore. Gus pressed one last paw into Ida's paw. The papers shared the news and the city cried. For days, the zoo was filled with goodbyes. Looks like the front of the newspaper even was saying goodbye to Ida. Seems like everybody loved Ida. Now, when keys click and shoes clack, Gus crawls out of his cave, knowing that Ida won't be there. He dives and swims alone, and he eats lunch with Sonia, and they roll Ida's favorite yellow ball. Some days Gus forgets. He looks for Ida on the rock, in her cave, and behind the waterfall. When he remembers she isn't there, he rests in the shadows. But even in the shadows, the sounds of the city reach him. He hears buses groan and trucks rumble, police whistle, taxis honk, pigeons coo. People say, "Hey, wait, yo, hello," and children laugh. Gus smiles. He steps into the spot where Ida liked to soak in the sun, and he listens to their city pulsing around him. He remembers that Ida said, "You don't have to see it to feel it." The sidewalks tap and the streets hum, and Gus's heart beats. And Ida is right there, always. The end. Can all of you see the cloud up in the sky, right above the word always? To me, that cloud looks like Ida. I think Gus sees that cloud and that brings him comfort. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful story. There were parts of it that were quite sad, weren't there? When Ida isn't there any longer, at first it's really hard. But I'm so glad that she taught Gus before she left that she would always be with him, no matter what, even if he couldn't see her. That's a really comforting thought for me when I think about friends or family members that I've had that aren't here any longer. The reminder that they are always with us is really a beautiful way to think. Anyhow, I hope you all enjoyed that story about Gus and Ida. I'm going to leave this part up on the screen for just a moment if you're with a grown-up and they want to read this part to you, because this is a story that's actually based on a real pair of best friend polar bears who lived in Central Park Zoo in New York. I love that it's a true story. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back so that I can read to you again soon. In the meantime, have a wonderful day, everyone. And thanks for being here with me. Bye for now.